Consistent self-improvement, everybody. You are now listening to American gypC Podcast. I am your host, Classic, and I am here with my co-host,
gypC. And today we have John Wingate. He is the host of CryptoConquest Podcast, a Web3 developer and a musician. Welcome to the show, John.
Welcome, John.
Thank you so much. It's fantastic to be on. Thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure having you. Thank you for being here with us.
I'm glad you included. Oh, sorry. Oh,
go ahead.
I was just going to say, I'm glad you included the music in there. I didn't know if you were going to put that in there.
Oh, yeah. Because we both do we have a wide variety of skill sets. So,
Yeah.
I like
great.
To highlight that. What kind of music
Sorry to cut
do
you
you
off.
do?
So I've been in a bunch of different bands, but everything from, really every kind of music you could ever think of. So it doesn't really matter. Everything from literally classical music to country to rap to every kind of music you can think of. So rock, it's just the whole gamut.
Okay. Yeah, I'm a musician myself.
Awesome.
I grew up playing cello. Grew up in orchestras and stuff like that. Yeah, and I produce, sing, songwrite, same as far as similar. Haven't done rock quite, but yeah, as far as jazz, everything else, little tiptoe and country. Yeah.
Oh yeah, nice. Great. That's awesome.
So tell us a little bit about I guess that's what I was going to say. Tell us a little bit about where you're from and things like that. At least, where were you born? And
yeah, I was born in Houston, Texas. Technically in Memorial City. So
and right now you're where again?
I'm in Dallas.
Dallas. All right.
That's right. Yep. So I was born in Houston. Lived in a city called Alief. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Alief, Texas, but there's a lot of athletes. We've had a lot of rappers come out of there. It's kind of very well-known place. They call it the Third Coast down in Houston. So you got East Coast, West Coast, and then you got Third Coast down here in Houston. So Alief is one of those kind of places that is on the map if you talk to people who are from Texas. But if you're from LA, you guys are the place that everybody talks about. So
I think I've only been to Houston once. Yeah.
Oh, you did? Well, is that the only time you've been to Texas?
No, I'm originally from Mississippi, so I've been to Dallas a few times, but I think I can only remember going to Houston maybe once or twice. Not too sure, but yeah, I remember it just being huge and humid.
It's certainly not a city that I love Houston from because I'm from there, my family's from there, and all that, but. I certainly don't miss it too much. Let's just leave it at that.
So
you were going to say something, gypC? gypC, I think you were going to say something. What were you
saying? I said, well, we passed through Dallas. So we drove from LA all the way to Mississippi and Georgia. So we passed through Texas, but I haven't really spent too much time in Texas. So.
Well, everybody from California is moving out to Texas, so I wouldn't be surprised if you get. Yeah. It's it's when you're looking at places like Austin, Dallas, they have very similar environment, climate. Just the landscape is very similar, especially if you're looking at that LA area. I know you got some bigger hills out there, but for the most part, we don't have the smog and the we can see our hills on it all day. Texas is a lot of people moving here from LA and all that. So it's amazing. The state's growing like crazy.
Has that changed the culture of Texas?
No, because Texas is really multicultural. No, I don't think it has, because Texas has always been a really multicultural type of place. There are concerns. I think a lot of people have concerns about just some of the policies of, that have been set up in California, and that it kind of put California in the position that it is right now, making their way over. But I think for the most part, those traditionally aren't determined by the people for the most part. You've got your congressmen and your Congress, your people who are really proposing the laws, and then the people just get to vote on them for the most part. And you don't even need everybody to vote on them. You just need enough to be more than the other side. So I don't see a big culture shift, but a lot of people are worried about it.
So did you grow up in music, or was it something that you kind of got in? Is it in your family, or is it something you just kind of got into?
I've been in music my whole life. So when I was a kid, my dad's very musical. My brother, he played violin. I played trombone. And so, from a very early age, we got guitars and basses when we were, 7, 8 years old. And we just would play and sing and play and sing. And then we got really good and got better and got better. And so, we just started doing different things. But as much as I've always tried to pull myself into music, it seems like there's always been something that's come up at the same time that I love music, first off, but it always seems like there's something that comes in at a similar time that gets my attention just a little bit more, and I don't focus on it as much as I look back sometimes and say, man, I wish I would have focused on music a lot more. I don't know how much more I could have, but
yeah, it was for me. My brother played cello as well. It was kind of offered to me. I've mentioned it before, probably numerous times on other podcasts as well. But I was basically offered, the cello, and it's something that I had to think about as an adult on, my whole music relationship. I love music as well. It wasn't quite in my family, like maybe for you, but I didn't like playing the cello growing up. So I didn't practice. And like you said, those things are like, I wish I would have practiced a little more. Yep. I do wish I would have practiced a lot more. And I wish I would have liked playing the cello. Well, no, after growing up, I guess I learned more that I didn't like classical music. It wasn't the cello.
Yeah.
I didn't really like playing classical music, even though it's the ultimate foundation for the cello, or for string instruments, period. And the fundamentals and everything, the technique and everything that come along with it is priceless. But I just couldn't connect to it the same way that, and then by the time I got into performing arts school with the cello, and then I was introduced to the bass guitar in the 5th grade. And the performing arts school that I was attending got these little keyboards.
So you were early. You were doing this. You were playing cello early.
5 years old. Yeah, I started at 5. Yeah.
Like Mozart.
And that's the thing, is like my brain, and because at the performing arts school we had music theory as well. So we had to learn music history and along with that, my brain just kind of kept taking that information and pushing it away. Like you said, I can't tell you about Mozart, Beethoven, Haydn, all of those that we had to be tested on constantly. It never stuck. Even in college, it didn't stick, how it stuck with a lot of other students, even just
that's a problem with teaching and education in general, is that they don't tend to teach the kid what the kid gravitates towards. They tend to just, put a book in front of them and say, memorize everything that's in this book. I think it's a big problem with the way education is structured today. We've got so much capability with technology to cater to specific kids and test them for specific likings and things like that, that I really hope that because I have 4 kids and they're all going up through it, that Elon Musk has a very interesting school where he developed it for his kids. But whenever I hear people say things like that, because I'm the exact same way, there were so many things in school that I was just like, I don't want to hear about this. I really, it's something that I'm not interested in. Yeah. And if you look at people like Elon Musk or Steve Jobs, people like that, they tend to give you the advice of, do what you're passionate about, because that's what you're going to stick to and be passionate to wake up for the next day. And I think we've got to instill that into our kids. It's a injustice that we're doing them by creating educational systems to both of our points, I think.
Yeah, because even then, at sixth grade, when the school received, or the piano class, the teacher for her classroom, she received keyboards, and they came with these instrument boxes. And basically then we got drums and sounds right at our fingertips. My brain I barely kept a C just to keep from not getting kicked out of the class, or, for not getting kicked out of the
you did what you had to do. You obviously were able to do it. You did what you had to do.
But our assignment is, the scale, this books, like you said, they put this book there, and it's learn this song. And, as a beginner pianist, I have, even to this day, I have instrumental songs that I started making and saved them on a floppy disk now, but I wasn't interested in that. In learning
what type of floppy disk are we talking about? Are we talking about the 5 1/4, or are we talking about the 3 1/2?
It got to be the 3 1/2. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
The 3 1/2. Yeah. I'm 38 for the listeners. Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'm 39, so I'm right there with you.
Yeah. So, and it's funny how things even worked out. My private cello teacher was her, rest in peace, Nadine Derby. She's was like a second mother to us, because we had private lessons twice a week, and we were like her prize students. Our pianist, who also played cellist, or the accompanist, who would accompany us on our recitals and things like that whenever we go to competition or anything, have to perform. We had the pianist, Mrs. Sullivan. I'm trying to pull back her name. I'm gonna say maybe, was it Jacqueline Sullivan or Jacqueline?
It's funny.
I can't.
I was trying to pull back a elementary school teacher's name for the other day, the same way, and I was like, "What is her name?" I was going to try to look her up on LinkedIn.
I know it's Sullivan. I'm not too 100% sure on her first name.
That's my problem. I know mine was Miss Clayton. Sullivan. But I just can't remember what her first name was.
Because we used the last name.
That's right. Uh-huh.
I had to go to her house one time to rehearse, and she had the same box that my school had. And she had the equipment to put those instrumentals onto cassette tape. So she ended up putting it onto cassette tape for me. And I actually, like I said, I think if I'm quite sure, I still have those cassette tapes, that when I started making those beats. After that, I probably didn't get into producing and learn what a music producer was until college, like my freshman year, or I could maybe say coming out of high school, when I'm graduating from high school. I had
what was that transition for you? So I've always thought, how do I've done everything from plays and musicals, and played instruments and sung songs and played whatever, right? But there's a transition, I think, mentally between being a person who performs and then being a person who produces, because you're really not even just writing music at that point. You're putting it all together, every aspect of it. You're finding who the proper artist is for the piece. You're finding the piece. You're finding who's going to mix it, who's going to put it together. And sometimes you do handfuls of those, sometimes you do all of it, sometimes you just pull the people together. So what was that like for you? Because I've always been interested in that component.
To go back, I guess, to my middle school days when I was producing, in that same classroom, the teacher had the device. Basically, she could hear everybody, as far as she could press the button, and that's how she conducted the class one-on-one, or then, if
you're performing for this was when you were in sixth grade?
This is in sixth grade at a Power APAC Performing Arts School in Jackson, Mississippi. Yeah.
Wow. That's pretty advanced for that far back.
And we didn't have any major producers. David Banner is one of the biggest names as a music producer to come out of Mississippi. So there wasn't like a local following that you could, get involved with and learn how to produce like you did and like you had in Atlanta or some other places.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So even then, like I said, I was pretty rebellious. I wasn't interested in, learning the book stuff. So at the end of the class, she would press the button and to, everybody hear everybody. And then, that's just as a sign, you hear a quick flash of everybody's music in your headphones, and you know that the class is finna get ready to end. And every time she pressed that button, you hear a beat, coming from somewhere, and all the kids would look up at me. And after so many years, like you said, the question that you ask about how do you know certain things, those kids, super talented pianists. Some of them, we were just in the same theory class together, but they were in performing arts school for piano. They were crazy. And even those kids would be like, hey, can I see your disc so I can listen to some of your stuff? And they can't create. They can read it off the paper. And that's something that I realized then, so it was a balance out of, I'm not worried about the teacher liking my music. The students, they liking my stuff. At least these are other, quality musicians. But I wasn't, even coming through high school, there was nobody to really say anything or around me to push as, even not even the instructors. They didn't know anything about creating original music and producing it or just putting it out.
Well, I think that, you just unlocked something in my mind. My mind just went ding like this, because I think that's the thing. Remember when I said earlier that there's always been something that I always found somewhere else that I was like interested me a little bit more. It's the creation. And I've never been able to create music, but I can create, I've created artwork, and I've created I've created my own version of songs, or, little deviations of things, right? Spins on things, but never something from scratch in music. And I think I really have to create to feel like I'm being purposeful is one of the things that I found with myself. And that's, I think you just solved a lot of my problems, my life problems, with that statement that you just made.
Well, yeah, I guess.
Because I think that's, some people who are creators, they need to create at the end of the day. Like if you're not able to create something, so in the Web3 world, like with, that's why you want to be there, because you're doing development, right? Software development.
Well, that's gypC.
Oh, gypC. Sorry. Yeah, so you're into the.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. Yeah. Very cool. Yeah. That's not very common to have women in the Web3. I mean, period, in crypto. There are some developers. Of the several hundred that I've managed, I don't know that I've had more than a handful of female developers. So you're in a very limited or exclusive club there. Yeah. Especially being in the Web3. I don't run
into too many. Actually, I was going to mention, I'm not a Web3 developer. I have an interest in web. I do web development, but I'm also interested in Web3 and crypto and blockchain. So that's why I mentioned I want to start looking into transitioning to that, because I have interest in it in my personal life. So I figured it would go hand in hand. But I haven't gotten into Web3 development.
So you're both creators. I think we understand that right now. You're both creators.
And I mean, do
having the podcast is
creative things as well. Like I stopped development for a little while, and I did photography, and I ended up liking that. And I do some content creation, video and stuff. So there's like two sides of me, and both need to be expressed, and
artistic as well.
Yeah. So it's I feel like it's two different sides, but both have to be expressed in some way. So one is through.
What are the different sides? Say that again.
Well, I guess creative versus, like, do you feel like your developer, person who's doing the development, is the same person creating the music as well? It's just two, or you feel like it's two different aspects of you?
I think that they're the same. They're just different manifestations of creation. So, when I sit down and try to, because I've done it before, I've sat down and tried to create music. So there was a while, I guess the closest I ever got to what I would consider creation of something new was I used to spin turntables. So, when you do that, and, I had these beat mixing machines and, tables. And when you're doing that, there is this element of creation that comes out when you're mixing several different songs and you're going for, I mean, we used to do for like 3-4 hours, just spin these sets for 3-4 hours. And so that was probably the closest I ever got to creating. But I think that for me, the creation is, the inherent thing that I want to be doing. And then I just want to be the best creator, the most expressive artistic creator in the best form that I can create. And so for me, the music didn't really, I don't know if it was just I didn't have the stick-to-itiveness to create the music. I mean, some people, they sit down and like Mozart sits down and he looks up like, I mean, I'm just playing here, but he looks up and he comes up with a song, and I'm like, shit, I can't do that with with music or piano, but I could do that with code, and I can do that with so many other things, business creation and so many other things that I just gravitate towards things. I'm passionate about those two. I think that's what the difference is too. There is that I'm passionate about them.
Yeah.
And what made you get into Web3 development, and explain what that is? Because we don't talk enough about crypto, but we both have interest in crypto.
It's first off, it's about to change our lives. That's the first thing we all need to understand and know. It's about to radically transform the way, so one thing that I am a believer in is that the financial rails of the world, unless you're somebody who's disconnected themselves, and there are a lot of people who have and can, but unless you've disconnected yourself from being financially dependent on, worldly things, let's just say it like that, finance and the financial rails of society are one of the most important things that control our daily lives. And to this point in human history, it's for the most part been in the hands of a select few, whether you want to call them, word X or word Y, or say they're part of this group or that group, or they have this agenda or that agenda. It's just going back and forth between a very small group of people. And at the end of the day, it all comes down to, value that we ascribe to whatever they're giving us, right? And then we use that as a medium of transfer. So, it went from stones to tools to gold to now we're just throwing paper back and forth at each other. And what crypto does, blockchain does, is it decentralizes the concept of value and who gets to set the value. And you're starting to see governments understand that, and I'm going to cuss a little bit more probably while we're talking about this. So, okay, I won't do the bad ones, but I'll throw out just the minor ones. So, it's got government saying, "Oh shit," because they're starting to realize. Like I was, I run a project called Bank Social, a company called Bank Social Financial, and it's a financial blockchain company that's focused on decentralizing just how the financial institutions around the world work. And 7% of the monetary supply is now in cryptocurrency. 7% of the total monetary supply is in cryptocurrency. And that's really a tremendous number when you think about how much fractional lending is done. So the concept of, there's 3 of us here on this call, and, I take $1, I put it in a bank, they give that dollar to you, then they give that dollar to you, and then, but we all have $1 in the bank, but there's really only $1.
Right.
Yeah.
It just keeps going around and around and around. So when you think about that, and then you think about now crypto has taken 7% of whatever all that value that has been created over there, that's a really tremendous number that it's been able to amount in such a short period of time. And we see governments starting to make big moves. Some are being really, really embraceful of it. Others are, oddly enough, the United States. Well, I don't want to say oddly enough. I think it's clear why. But the United States has been very slow to adopt any specific stance. I mean, every time you hear it, it's like, scare. I've got this conspiracy theory that what they're really trying to do is just scare the markets as low as they can so they can continue to acquire as much as they can, because they understand that the way these systems are coded and they can't be broken. And when there's a finite supply and you can't just go push the button to say, okay, we're raising the debt ceiling and we're printing $5 trillion more dollars, stuff gets interesting. Economic.
Yeah. Yes. Did you freeze?
Oh, we lost you.
Form our lives, and it's.
You froze up a little bit there for
transform. What's that?
You froze up.
Oh,
froze up for a little bit. I'm sorry about that.
No, that's all right. That's all right. So basically, so now let's talk about Web3 a little bit. So we talked about kind of blockchain and crypto, but what is this Web3 concept? So the Web3 concept, in Web 1, you really had a bunch of centralized services that were all disparate. So you had the AOLs and I'm talking, think early AOL, more like bulletin board systems. If you were around for bulletin board systems. So, they were all very disparate. In the beginning, they didn't talk to each other very well. HTTP protocol wasn't around. And so information was siloed into these different organizations. Then you had Web 2 come along and it decentralized the information. So it essentially let anybody utilize the internet to, unsilo and decentralize that information. So that was the first decentralization wave. The third decentralization wave is the decentralization of economies and the systems that power them. So even in the Web 2.0 world, you still had Amazon that had all their servers in 10 locations or 15 locations. And the whole Amazon going down a couple, like 2-3 months ago, I don't know if you guys were impacted by that at all, but Amazon went down and probably 50% of the internet, some components within these applications stopped working because they're all relying on, maybe AWS for database or this or that. Yeah. The internet didn't go down, but components of applications.
Yeah, a lot of people use Amazon and AWS.
A significant number. And so now you talk about, okay, well, how does Web3 change that? Well, the internet is just a connection of computers. That's all the internet is. And so now you talk about, well, how do you allow those computers to be a part of a decentralized network that can offload like Amazon Web Servers or financial systems or so that's the third wave of decentralization. Let me give you a very kind of vanilla example. So, Google Docs, Dropbox.
Yeah.
Right. So Google Docs and Dropbox, you get an account, you go on there, it's stored on Google servers. It's decentralized within the Google Cloud network, meaning your information could live on multiple computers. It's redundant. But it's controlled by Google. If something happens to Google, or if Google makes a mistake, your files could go down. They could be lost. They can be gone away. Fast forward, that's Web 2. Fast forward Web 3 now, we have the IPFS file system. So the interplanetary file system. What that is that's a decentralized network of nodes that anybody can put on any computer anywhere in the world. And when you take your file and put it out there, it gets distributed to all these computers around the world. And then instead of paying a fee to Google, you get some free usage out of it, but you pay a little tiny fee if you go over that. And those people who are hosting it, they get a little small portion of it. So instead of Google getting all this money, now everybody who's hosting gets all this money, right? Everybody whose computer power is being used gets all this money. So that's like the simplest form of transition from Web 2 to Web 3. So you can see how not only did it take over the whole file storage problem and decentralize that, but it also took care of the financial problem, incentivizing people to utilize their network and computing power to maintain the system long term.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yes.
So, sorry, that was a very long-winded answer.
Yeah. But it definitely opens up as far as to get a little explanation because she knows more about it than I do. I'm still learning, of course. So that's why we definitely enjoy conversations with people like you, because this helps us get a little bit more, well, actually a whole lot more knowledge about, some of the things that we don't know or just still can't pick, because you have to watch the video. Even for me, I watch a YouTube video over and over, whether it's about cryptocurrency or NFTs and a couple of things, and it's pretty complicated, but you have to be.
Yeah, and that's why I don't like to start off with, sorry, we broke up. Okay, we had a little bit of a glitch there.
Yeah. You were saying?
You don't have to really, I try not to because it is very complex, and there's so little that's known, and there's so little that's evolved in this short amount of time. I mean, it's evolved tremendously, but to where it's gonna be,
yeah,
this is I don't like to call this a revolution, because it's not. That's just revolution is termed in the root word revolve. We're not revolving around anything. This is an evolution. This is taking us to another phase of being as humans. And it's something that I like to call social capitalism. So I'm actually writing a book called Social Capitalism that's going to be out in probably another month and a half. And the basis of the book is how in the future we are now able to work together socially and still utilize the concept of capitalism, but not in this crony capitalistic or this top-down capitalistic way. It's a way that benefits everybody who wants to participate. And so you'll have all these little micro economies that spin up, and then you'll derive value from one or two or multiple or hundreds. And then you'll take those values and go take them into other economies that you choose to participate in. That's the future of financial freedom, as I, can envision and very much hope to be a part of ushering into the, to this evolution that's coming in. That I believe it's really got two distinct roads that it could go down right now. Yeah. One is this one that's owned by venture capitalists and people who just want to capitalize on the name of blockchain. They're just there to make tons of money, and then 7 years later they'll figure out what to make money on next. The other road, and I believe that we're going to see these parallel roads travel down, and then what's going to end up happening is this one's going to run out of steam, because people are going to start to understand the VC one and the one that's run by these people who their only motive is profit. People are going to be like, why? There's a version over here where I benefit. It's not all the money's not just going to you. Why don't I just use this version? Yeah. And because there's nothing to stop it, it will, he who solves the problem for the people will win in the Web3 world, versus before it was just who had the most marketing dollars, who knew the people in the government and who could stay relevant, right? Who didn't get shut down. There'll still be some of that, but I mean, there are projects running right now that cannot be shut off because they're decentralized in a manner that you would almost have to shut down the internet. Look at Bitcoin. You would literally have to shut down the internet to stop Bitcoin. You could shut down all the exchanges in the world that transfer it out to fiat currency. And I think that's what governments are understanding and saying, oh, fuck, we waited too long. Because I've been around in crypto since 2010. Wow. And back then, you didn't have exchanges. It's just people on the dark web were just sending Bitcoins or mining, or you just mined them yourself. I did that too. But you'd go into Western Union, put $50 into somebody's account with your Bitcoin address, and then they'd send you Bitcoins back. That's it. That's how it worked. And so that at that point, the government could have came in, shut it all down, been like, nope, they waited. And now they're like, shit, the only way for us to shut this down is to shut the internet down. So what do? They can try to shut down the exchanges, and all that's going to do is tell people that we just need to keep our money in Bitcoin. We don't need to, we don't need to take it out of Bitcoin, because we need to the biggest paradigm shift that's going to take us the longest to make this transition is people understanding that they have the power and they have the value. It's not our relationship with government. It's not our relationship with a corporation. That's what they market to us. It's like, oh, when you get that McDonald's in your hand, you feel good, and you and McDonald's are powerful. No. You are powerful. Right. You're supremely powerful over all of that. And so that's the position that we're going to have. That's the paradigm that we're going to have to push past. We're in the right time, though. We have the ability. I mean, beautiful people like you are, getting messages out there and working hard to get messages out there. I know you guys are doing 2 podcasts a day. That's
for now.
Yeah. Well, that's tremendous amount of work.
Yeah, it'll definitely probably be even more podcasts a day.
Wow, that's incredible. That's incredible. But beautiful people like you guys are putting this information out there, and whatever information it is, it's allowing people to grow their, experience through, learning from other people's experience. Just like what we were talking about before, about the whole being creative, right? And when you decided, or when you found, how you found, somebody else hears that and says, oh, that's how I felt. That's what I saw. That's how I experienced life. This is what it's all about. This is what the future world is all about.
Yeah, because there's still people that feel like, with not that much exposure, that felt like, oh, this is just a phase and it'll blow over and the whole thing will go away. I'm like, no, it's another layer. It's another layer of, just like the internet, that will be used to do a lot of different things, depending on who's
even to try to be to stay a step ahead, with that idea of, how do you defend yourself, or what would be the best defense to trying to be, one step ahead of them trying to turn off the internet to protect your investments, or, if it even tried to come to that.
Well, let's be real. If the internet went down, your normal bank ain't going to work either.
Right.
So this is not a question of if they can do it anymore. It cannot happen in my view. The thing that will happen is that there could be this period of time where there's an active effort. And I think I see it a lot now, where this is why I think corporations are trying to get involved with NFTs and cryptocurrency, because they need you to feel like without them, you don't have power. That's what they need you to feel. That's the ultimate. Yeah, that's the dichotomy that's happening here, is that the one side is fighting for relevancy. People are waking up and saying, we just need each other.
Yeah.
That's all we need is each other. And the other side is saying, no. You need me. You need us. You need we. You need, governments. You need corporations. You need all these things. Maybe we do, right? Yeah. As components of our daily lives, but not as the things we derive the most power from. I mean, look at how much, Nike the other day debuted got to like $13,000, a $13,000 NFT, digital NFT. Who buys this stuff? What are we buying this stuff for? Relevancy. That's what we're buying it for. That's it. And so they're really making an active effort, and they're using money to do it, which is kind of gross to me. It's really gross. Look, I love money. Okay. I love it. But, there are certainly ways that we should be utilizing it in society, and corporations deriving power just through trying to remain relevant doesn't seem like the right way to me.
Yeah. As an artist, they've tried to mix, of course, the record label type of things with NFTs, on how, artists are going to make money with NFTs, or the record label is going to use NFTs to make artists. Now, explain that to some artists or if you can, to what they really mean by that, or what are some of the ways?
Here's what I look at as an NFT. Okay, so you have two different types of platforms right now in cryptocurrency. Just really quickly, okay? You've got your coins that are just they're verifiable, they're traceable, they're they can't be stolen just through hacking. Okay, just through hacking the blockchain. Then you have smart contracts. Okay. So what you need to think of NFTs and smart contracts, how you need to think of those is just like a contract that you're writing up as as an artist. The cool thing, the great thing about NFTs, this is what it gives the artist. It puts the artist back in that value position. Okay. Because before, how many times have you heard big artists? I think there was, who was it? Kanye West and it wasn't Charlemagne the God. I can't remember. Kanye West basically screwed somebody out, or they thought, whether Kanye did it or not is I don't think as relevant as some, two parties to a deal. One thought they got screwed. The other one didn't think they were screwing anybody. But at the end of the day, how could you trace that? You got to go try to find accounting and books, and will they give them to you? And are you going to sue them? And how much are you going to spend to sue them? Fuck that. Just put your shit into an NFT and tell the record label, no, I want to sell my stuff through an NFT, because you know why? That's coded on the blockchain. Whenever a record gets sold, you see that, and you can also code in the amount of royalty you get off of each transaction and each future transaction. And it's immutable. It can't be changed. One party can't just come in and say, you know what? I'm fucking that guy tomorrow. Because that happens all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, people come in and say, man, I wrote a really good contract. Look at that, that out I had, the other thing it gives too is it gives artists, this community of people who can look out for them. Like, no artist is going to go put their contract. You can't. I mean, if you're an artist right now, there's like non-disclosures in your contracts that say you cannot tell anybody about how bad we screwed you in this contract. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But if you've got these open contracts that are on blockchains, and somebody, your community members are like, hey, you're getting screwed. Everybody can just decide. The people who have the value can decide, we're not buying that NFT. You know what, record label? Screw you. We'll buy it when he releases another contract with another NFT that's fair for everybody. We have the value. So that's really where there's this, we have to understand how to use it for good.
Yeah.
Is the main thing. And specifically for artists, I think they are one place, both music, video. I think this can be something that essentially gets put into like DRM, digital rights. So when you have digital rights on a movie and it gets downloaded, or, I mean, they're already doing digital rights. They, people try to strip it off, but the vast majority of content that goes out has some type of digital rights tracking on it. They can make it much more sophisticated, put blockchain NFTs as part of it. It will happen. I mean, we're kind of prognosticating here, but that gives artists, and so artists just have to understand that the value's in their hands and their community's hands. The power is in their hands and in the community's hands. It's not the other way around. That's what NFTs and blockchain give you.
Okay. To get, I guess, to go a little bit more, I guess, even example wise, because I'm still painting the picture. I haven't walked it through for some, the experience myself. So as an artist, say I'm doing an album, I'm going to release an album. What would be what would be the way to release it as a non-fungible token? Because we've been saying NFT, I guess, for people that don't even know what NFT is, non-fungible token. What's the example how would you release an album as an NFT, and what would be some of the things that you're looking for as an artist? Or
so let me just this can get very complex. So I'm going to keep it in a very simple example of how this can be done. Okay. Cause it could get,
we thank you for
much
working
more complex. No, it's just because it's not because you wouldn't understand. It's just that there's so many different things you could code into these smart contracts that, I mean, we could sit here and talk all night about potential possibilities of what could be coded in these smart contracts.
Right.
But at a high level, remember what I was talking about with that IPFS file system?
Mm-hmm.
That interplanetary file system that I was telling you about, that's replacing Google Docs and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So you could essentially marry that blockchain technology with a NFT blockchain technology, wrap your song, wrap the actual, musical part of the song in an NFT contract, limit access to that music for just the holders of the NFT through an app. Does that make sense? Okay. So you'd only be able to play it through an app that gave you access to the NFT. And then what you could also do is you could give people the ability, or it depends on, the sales model. It could be a number of different ways. You can get a royalty, you can split royalties, you can give royalties to other people who bought your song. So let's say like the first 1,000 users that bought your NFT, you can incentivize the first 1,000 users by saying, you know what, you'll get 1%. The first 1,000 users will get 1% of every one of these albums that ever sold. So think about a Michael Jackson, or think about like somebody who sold just a ton of records, right? Yeah. Think about the incentive for his fans to get in line. And the beautiful thing about this is you don't need accountants sitting in the middle being paid millions of dollars just to push money from this side of the table to this side of the table and take their piece out of it. That's gone. That's gone. We just wiped away a vast portion on the table of people and that's why you can do these types of things with NFTs. Like before you couldn't, because everybody's going to make sure that you're left with 8% of whatever is on the table. Whatever they need to do to make sure you don't make more than 8%. If they need to hire 2 more accountants, if they need to hire, another bodyguard to make sure that, they're going to do whatever they need to do to make sure they spend as much of that money off of your production value as they possibly can. And I'm probably going to get a lot of targets on my head for talking this way, but that's all right. I already have some on my head, I'm sure. But do you see what I'm trying to paint here? Yeah. So you really, by taking away all these components that are really unnecessary components, if you ask me, you have more clarity, right? There's less obscurity to what's going on. And again, you have the power to really share this social capitalism, right? Yeah. How do you get social capitalism? Just what I was saying. Give the first 1,000 people who come in a future royalty to every other albums that's sold. And you can track this on the chain. Nobody's ever going to question how many were sold, why I didn't get my royalty. It's all on the blockchain. Go look. You don't even have to ask me. It's all open source. It's on the blockchain. This is the beauty. I think artists more than anything have the ability to really grasp hold of this. People are telling me it's like, basketball players and football players, they're not really creators. Right. They're great athletes. They're not really, some of them are creators, certainly. Maybe a lot of them are creators, but just a basket, like a digital basketball card, but you can still codify those types of things in there too, where you're saying, okay, you get the first, you get royalties on the next, and then, but really where it makes sense is in the creator space, music. Mostly in music, I think is a big place for NFTs to go. So yeah, did that answer your question?
Yes, you did.
I'm really glad you explained all of that, because I've always wondered, like, how is this going to play out in the music space? So this is,
and I hear people mention it, but of course, with information, you kind of got to go over it sometimes to
absolutely,
and it helps to hear it from different people, other than just Gary V. So,
with Gary V, you've got to pick it out between the fucks. So it's really hard.
But I love
it. We definitely. But that's, like I said, definitely help. Even for our listeners, that's one of the reasons why I even ask certain questions, is just to get it from a very beginner mindset. How do people get introduced into it? Like you said, you've been into crypto since 2010, and that's amazing. But I'm still fairly new, and this is 11, 12 years later almost.
I mean, the good thing is that we're all still very new. If you look at like the adoption curve rate of, okay, so I put out a number, 7% of the total world money, but that's not user adoption. It's way less on the user adoption side. So we're like early, 1999, 1998. Maybe we're crossing over that 2000 bubble that happened in the internet back in the day, where you had a bunch of companies, everybody was, starting to figure out that, man, this internet is a pretty cool thing. What is this thing? You got mail. What is that? That sounds pretty cool. So when the internet started really blowing up, that's where we are right now with cryptocurrency. That's where we are right now with blockchain. So mass adoption is still, in front of us. It's not behind us. We're not like in the iPhone app stage yet. So just know that getting involved now still puts you way far out in front. And I think it's great, gypC, that you're getting into Web3 development. I would highly, highly encourage you to learn technology. Do you know React at all?
Yes, not as much as I feel like I should, but yes.
That's okay. That's okay.
I work mostly with Angular more so than React, but yeah.
Perfect. I mean, anything that's, so the Web3 world is very front end focused.
And by the way, I was going to say, I actually have 4 other siblings that are also web developers. So we're like a family of
you guys
developers.
Can write the world. So you guys need to go write the new Web3 world.
We definitely appreciate, like, what languages are, like, would you recommend? Because I know I see some JavaScript, but I also see Python. Like, what are your recommendation for a person that's getting into Web3?
Yeah, so my recommendations are mostly front-end languages, because a lot of the applications just deal with, they're just user front-end applications. And Web3, for the most part, unless you're doing something significantly more complex, doesn't always have to go back and touch, Python backends or PHP backends, Go backends, whatever other languages you want to use server side. So more so client side rendering, you get speed out of it, and you can deal with wallets, you can deal with transactions. Languages, I think React, certainly Angular, anything that's really front end, JavaScript. They're all really JavaScript. But learning Node.js would be something that kind of would, if you're a front end developer but you're trying to do some stuff in back end, that's a easy, more seamless transition than trying to go to Python or PHP or whatever other language you want to talk about. And then as far as, I'll give you guys a couple of SDKs, the development kits that you should look at. So there's one called Moralis, Moralis, Moralis. It's a JavaScript framework that, there's a Web3 library. There's a Web3 component library that you can include in any project. But the Moralis has taken that and put a bunch of wrappers around it. And it's also taken other components, other Web3 components, and brought them into one library. And I think they're doing a really great job at, and they also have, so, there's 3 components most of the time to any application. You got your front end, you got your server side, and then you've got some type of database component that typically sits with the server side component. So with these, faster, more agile products that are being released, you tend to see like NoSQL databases, like MariaDB. And that's something that Moralis has out of the box. It comes with a free MariaDB instance, and you can just kind of write directly to that MariaDB, and it's really fast and it's really cool. So those are the technologies that I would recommend playing with if you're looking to be, kind of in the forefront of Web3. But you guys should really start pushing yourselves that way.
Yeah, we do. We try to get together and build stuff as much as we can, but React is one of those things that they're always preaching to me. So This now I'm definitely convinced that that's what I need to focus on a lot, because it is popular language out of all of the JavaScript languages. I feel like React gets the most, I guess the most popular one. And
it's got a lot of marketing that's behind it. So a lot of it is Facebook. Facebook pushed it pretty heavily for a long time. I'm not, when people ask me about languages, I don't think you can go wrong with any of them. Mm-hmm. The most important thing is solving the user's problem.
Yeah.
And that doesn't happen with React. Like you can build a bad application in React. You can build a great application in React. Yeah. You can also do the same thing in Angular. And as far as a user experience, you can get a almost identical user experience with Angular versus React. I think from a development standpoint, React may be a little faster for prototyping.
Yeah.
Especially like React Native might be a little bit faster for prototyping across apps or mobile devices in app space. So that's really the only major benefit that it would have. But again, I think that even knowing Angular, learning Web3 with anything, I do it with all different types of languages, because at the end of the day, you go out and you try to find something and you start pulling libraries together. And you say, okay, I don't want to go build from scratch every single time. Mm-hmm. So speed to market, you start pulling libraries together and you see some work better with other languages and some work better with this language or that language. And then you just kind of put together something that solves the user's problem. That's really what I think should be the pinnacle paramount focus of any developer.
Yeah. Thank you for that. I did want to actually.
We've been waiting on this conversation.
Actually, I did want to ask a little bit more about your company, because I know you're utilizing Web3. So I want to know a little bit more about how you're doing that.
So we utilize Web3 in a number of different ways. Mostly, it's that social capitalism incentivization model. So we've got a debit card product that we're rolling out. We're in the process of rolling out. So allowing people to get rewards in crypto, get extra rewards if they're a part of the ecosystem, allowing them to track it themselves on a decentralized, something that we don't have to take accounting for, and they can just, utilize it themselves. We're allowing people to get mortgages and home loans with cryptocurrency, mint NFT mortgages with cryptocurrency. So we have a couple other things that are in the works in our head that'll be coming out soon. But these are the products initially that we're launching with right now. And the application stack, just if you're wondering what we're using, it is quite the amalgamation of different technologies. So, there's a little bit of Python in there. There's a little bit of PHP in there. There's a little bit of Golang in there. A little bit of React. Lot of JavaScript all over the place. It's running on Nginx and Node. So, again, it's like the other side of the coin is I don't want to have 50 languages to manage as a former software developer and manager of hundreds of developers. So it's kind of a fine line. It's a balance. But at the end of the day, I try to balance speed to market with optimal client or customer satisfaction, solving the customer's problem. And if I do that, if we have to manage another package, we just have to manage another package.
Yeah. You mentioned something interesting. I just came across the information recently. Real estate as you said doing real estate and blockchain, right? Mm-hmm. Like how does that work exactly?
So, there's my I have background in real estate, so I'm a real estate broker as well as I've built homes and done a bunch of flips and remodels and all that. So there are many components of the ecosystem, the real estate ecosystem, that would benefit from the use of cryptocurrency and blockchain. One of the probably most prominent use cases is title and chain of title. The only problem with most of real estate, it's different when we're talking about an artist putting in a music on an NFT, because they can really do that. Them and a developer too, like you, gypC, you guys could help each other and do an NFT to, in a couple days or a week or 2 weeks, whatever it is, and then you're done. With real estate, you've got all these regulatory and traditional rails that are vast and sprawling, and it's title is one of those places. So when you buy and sell a home, if I buy a home from you, you've got to, we've got to have assurances that since the beginning of time, you are legally able to own that home. And that's how it works. There's something called abstract of title. It ties back every single owner or every change to a property from, sovereignty of the land to today's day and time. There's insurances that go behind that. There's title companies that insure the insurances. And so when you start talking about all those portions of the pieces of the ecosystem, you break it apart and you say, okay, well, which ones are easy to put on the blockchain? And then which ones, like, for example, that abstract of title, they have to get that from the county, in Texas at least. So, every county is on a different system. So you can start to understand the complexities that can happen in certain parts of these ecosystems. In mortgages, it's a little bit different because you're dealing with, the documents, the information, the underwriting, those are handled by banks, and each bank, they try to standardize as much as possible because of things like Fannie and Freddie and all those, major underlying buyers of mortgage. It really comes down in the mortgage side to who buys it. And so in order for, if I'm doing a loan as a bank and I don't want to hold that loan, I need to make sure that when I underwrite it and I look at all the rules that I need to make sure are good, that somebody else is willing to buy that loan off of me. So because there's more standardization in the mortgage space, there's the opportunity to create NFTs that wrap all of that complexity and codify it on a blockchain. So, that's where we're focused on right now, but there certainly are other components, that could be taken into consideration. I think some people are working on the real estate agent side. It's just, how far out on the limb and the tree and the branches do you want to get, or how much closer to the main branches do you want to stay? Because crypto is so new, and that's why I encourage everybody to get involved now. We're building the main branches. And that's exciting to be part of an industry when you're building the main branches, because when you start building little twigs, it's like, if you're out there on a twig by yourself and it snaps and you fall, that's it. It's better to build a branch than it is to build a twig. Yeah. So, I mean, there are so many, and I talk about this right now, and we can probably brainstorm another 3 to 5, just if we talk for another hour about the different, but I think recently somebody just, we listened to their Twitter Spaces, and I think a lot of people, I won't call them out on this podcast, but a lot of people are just going after the name blockchain just to try to use it as it. But they, when you start talking to them about how does it actually use the blockchain, other than just saying, hey, I'm on the blockchain? Like, the equivalency would be, okay, let's just say an artist came out tomorrow and said he's doing an NFT.
Yeah.
And you're like, great. What does that mean? He's like, I'm just doing an NFT. Okay, what does that mean? Why is that any difference than buying? Oh, I'm getting 1%. Oh, you can track it. Oh, this, oh, that. Oh, okay, sweet. Yeah. You're doing an NFT. Hell yeah. That's badass.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the whole equation that I see playing out a lot, is more people are trying to take advantage of the name blockchain than are actually doing something that needs to be on the blockchain. Like some guys reached out to me the other day and they were like, hey, we want to put bus so prices of bus tickets on the blockchain. And I said, what? Why? And they're like, oh, because the guy who's investing in it wants it to say blockchain. And I was like, okay, that's a reason. That's not a great reason, but I guess it's a reason. But yeah, that's a lot of that going on right now.
Yeah, that's pretty weird. Can you educate us a little bit on mining, or like miners, crypto miners, and even just mining crypto?
Yeah, so mining has evolved a lot. It's one of those things that is consistently getting more complex from the code perspective. So every time, like on Bitcoin, for example, every time a block is mined, it gets slightly more complex the next time. And so what that does is it's the economics of getting a coin are always changing. It always gets more expensive to mine the next coin, and so you're always having to upgrade. So there's this self-limiting factor to the ability for any one guy to just go amass a ton of computers and be relevant for the next 30 years. It's not going to happen. You've got to continue to remain profitable and do the right things and find the right power and find the right machines and find the right cooling optimizations, the software to be profitable. So it's very, very interesting from that perspective. But I think going forward, we may not see as much mining in the, so there's two different, well, there's a number of them, but there's two main types of blockchain hashing algorithm concepts. One is a proof of work, where you go out and you utilize, electricity and energy to try to figure out the next block. The other one is proof of stake, where you have a bunch of people staking into a pool of validators. So think about just a bunch of computer nodes, and then hundreds of people or 10 people or one person put money into that node together. And then they say, oh, we'll vouch for that transaction. I'll vouch for that transaction. And then if they lie, or they perform they commit a bad block, they get penalized by all the other good blocks out there. So those are really the two different types of blockchain ecosystems that are starting to diverge. And so I think that mining is going away for the most part. There will still be some tokens that probably don't change away from mining. I think Bitcoin is one of them. And the proponents will tell you, because it's the value's backed by electricity if you do it that way, versus in a proof of stake model, the value's backed by just whatever the people want to, put. And I agree with that. I think that, because it does cost a specific amount of money to mine a Bitcoin, it will have an intrinsic value that could be tied back to the cost of energy versus, but still there's also a value. Like, is somebody going to pay $100,000 for a Bitcoin right now? Would you pay $100,000 for a Bitcoin right now?
No. Yeah, we don't have it as far as at the moment to pay, but no, I'm saying, but
even if you did, you probably wouldn't right now, because they're only $40,000, right?
Yeah. And a guy previously on our podcast, he did mention that it would be something in the future, most likely be something that's kind of, I guess, traded amongst, or transaction amongst most companies. Once it's at that point to where, maybe Bitcoin's at about $1 million or something like that, then that's what it'll become, something like that.
Yeah. So I have a there's another, one of the downsides to cryptocurrency, the larger ones right now, is that you can't go buy ice cream with Bitcoin. You can't. If you do, you're stupid. because, it's going to cost you, the $8 ice cream is going to cost you several dollars in gas to spend. And same thing with Ethereum. You can't use these systems for that reason. So what I envision happening, very much to the point, but just deeper diving it a little more, is that us as a financial institution, we're going to do all these internal transactions all day, where I'm holding everybody's Ethereum, Bitcoin, everything. Everybody who's in our financial institution will custody all their crypto, and they'll spend it just like it's their own, but they'll spend it within our ledger, up, down, left, right. And we'll keep a ledger of, let's say, Wells Fargo. If we owe Wells Fargo at the end of the day $1 million or $500,000, or they owe us $1 million or $500,000, we'll transmit that in larger chunks to get rid of the gas fees. Because right now, sending $1 million to Wells Fargo costs a lot of money. It's not $10, but on Bitcoin, it's $10. You pay $15, transfer $1 million, no problem. So for very large transactions, it makes sense. So that's what I think, to your last guest point, the mechanism for that will be financial institutions. You'll use your crypto, you'll spend it, you'll send it everywhere. It'll be trackable, it'll be traceable, and then they'll settle with each other periodically in larger chunks.
Okay. Yeah. Do you do mining? I know you mentioned you.
I used to do mining back when you could do it on. So my story is that in 2010, I was told, one of my developers who I was working with told me about Bitcoin and got me interested in it with just a single conversation. And I was always telling all my friends, I was like, you guys are fucking crazy. This is the future of money. You have no idea what you're talking about. But unfortunately, I let them convince me that I was the crazy one, so, but early on, I mined crypto, Bitcoin specifically with, I used to use CPU processing power on Google Cloud. So back in the early days of Google Cloud, you could spin one up and just run, I would spin up hundreds of them and just run Bitcoin miners on them all day until the free time ran out, and then I would spin them down. And this was all programmatic. So that was the extent of my mining experience. I've played around with it a little bit more, but back then I actually was into it, and all the components of setting up pools and setting up miners and automating miners and consolidating the funds. But now it's a big money game. So each miner cost about $10,000.
Yeah. I know. I want one. I want an Ethereum miner.
So yeah, the Ethereum miners are less. I think you can get an Ethereum miner for about $5,000, $6,000.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, I think you can. Now the thing is that they have return rates of like a year and a half. So if you buy that miner, with the electricity and everything you're going to spend and the cost of the miner, it's going to take you about a year and a half, 10, 12 months, depending on the hash rate that you're getting, or the, whatever you're mining on. It's going to take you a little bit of time to get that money back. So you really need to be somebody who's in it for the long term.
I think with all crypto mining, you have to think of long term and not the short term. It's because
exactly.
Like, the value of Ethereum I feel like will be ridiculous, 5-10 years from now, and I'm not going to be worried about the electricity fee that I used to mine it. At least I don't think so. I don't know.
I don't think you will, but I would just say that you got to look out, just be realistic, because it's not, if it was a couple $100, it's like whatever. But whenever you're dropping, $5,000, $10,000, $15,000, just understand that it's like a 10, 12 month. I mean, that's what I've looked at. I'm like,
Are those the GPU miners? Because the ones I was looking at were like 15 to 20,000.
You're just paying for probably name premium. Okay. You can put together a miner. So if you bought it all yourself and put it together, so if you went on, let's say you were building 10 of them and you went on Alibaba and you ordered everything from China and it got here in 3 weeks, you can build a miner for the cards. You can get the cards. So the 3080s, I think, are the NVIDIA 3080s. Yeah. You can get those for, I don't know, $700-800 if you look around. and you take 8 of them. So that's, what is that? $4,000, $5,000 right there in mining cards.
Yeah.
And then you take, or 5,500, and then the cases are cheap. The case is only like $200, $300. It's just a power supply and a bunch of slots. So the most of your money is in the chips, is in the graphics product or GPUs. So you can put together a machine, and you can buy them on the secondary market for about that.
Yeah.
I wouldn't buy secondhand machines.
Yeah, set it up for you and sell you like a rack with 6 or 8 of them.
You're a technical person, I think. So I think between you two, you could figure out how to put together a miner. It's I'm not going to call it simple, but I'm going to say it's straightforward to the point that there aren't a tremendous amount of components. We used to put computers together as kids, and there's 40 different components that you have to put together, and maybe not quite that many, but there's certainly more than just 8 graphics cards and a power supply.
Right.
So the cases already come put together with the motherboards on them, and you're really just installing the GPUs and the software. So I would encourage you to, because the other thing here too is if you're going to host them in your house, what if a graphics card goes out? What if it goes down? What are you going to do?
Yeah.
You need to know how to fix it.
Yeah.
Right. So you're really best served if you put it together yourself, save the money, learn how to use it. If you were buying 15 of them or 20 of them and sending them to some co-location and you just didn't have to worry about it, that's different. Pay, buy, somebody else will take care of them. Done. But that's my advice on mining. We've looked at a few different mining operations. We're actually working behind the scenes on a mining operation, but I'm not mining myself. We're just looking at deploying other people's miners in places. But yeah.
Thank you for sharing that information with us too.
My pleasure.
Recently got a helium miner. It took like 6 months to get delivered.
Smart.
But by the time it got here, there's a lot of them here in downtown LA.
Yeah.
When I ordered, I think there was 3 or 4 in my hex, and now there's 11 or 12, and it's going up. But it's still interesting to just test out. And
I think it's smart. I think it's very smart because it's doing 2 things. It's getting you comfortable with the social capitalistic model, where now you've bought into the system and now you're benefiting from the system, and you've decentralized the centralized systems. So that's a very important component to be a part of. I also think it's smart because this is a very unique, Helium is a very unique implementation, because I think what we'll have in the future is miners built into cars or
like Tesla, or was it?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. These decentralized systems will be built into everything you do. Mm-hmm. So, getting comfortable with having, with using it, deriving the value from it, knowing how to redeploy that value, that's going to be a critical component. You guys have kids?
I have a daughter, but we don't have kids together. Yeah.
Okay. So, it's important that we teach our kids this stuff too. I've started how old is she?
20.
Okay. So, it's important that she's older. So that's, she's kind of in her own deal right now. But, we've got to teach as many people as we can about these ecosystems and how they can, and the only way to do that is by you being involved in them. It's very hard to teach it when you're not involved in them and you don't have experience and passion and, can actually talk to, like, are you excited to have a helium miner?
Yes.
There you go. Look at that.
I'm part of the Discord and all of that, Twitter.
There
and
you
everything
go.
Else.
There you go. So you're part of the ecosystem, right? You're now this decentralized ecosystem of value providers, and you're very excited to be that way.
You mentioned the kids thing. Like, I actually got my niece into it. She just turned 9 recently.
Awesome.
And I got her a physical. Why can't I think of the name? The
USB.
The physical wallet.
Dogecoin?
Sorry.
Oh, okay. A paper wallet.
No, the jump drive.
No, the crypto.
Oh, you got
wallet.
like a Trezor wallet, like a crypto.
I forgot what it's called. Ledger? Nano Ledger. Yes.
Yeah, there you go.
So I got a Nano Ledger and put a bunch of crypto that I feel like she should have.
You are an awesome auntie. You are an awesome auntie.
And it's kind of cool to look at because I know she won't even think about it for a long time, and so it's gonna be a nice surprise. I feel like in the future.
Yeah, my nephew is about 18. And he got himself into it.
Yeah.
His older brother is not into it, but he's into it. So it's, catching certain ones.
Yeah, I think there's a like 19, 20, 21, 22-year-olds, for the most part, they're going to college. They're trying to figure out this transition in life between high school and being a grown-up. And the one thing that often goes way over their head is that you need to start looking at the financial aspects of your life.
Yeah.
You need to start setting yourself up financially early. I wish somebody would have, people did tell me that.
Yeah, it's all of us. All of us.
It's all of us. But I will say that I wasn't taught that early in life. So my mom, always make money. It's good to have money, blah, 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 blah. But, there are components of financial literacy that we all need to be aware of. And I think crypto needs to start being put into that. And really because you can just like take some crypto, give it, create a wallet right now, give it to your kid and say, here, start playing with it. You don't have to go to the bank or go online and sign up and, show your ID and wait for them to tell you yes. And then, it might be 3-4 days. By that time, everybody's lost interest, like kids now, they're like swipe to the next YouTube video. So we have to operate in that mode of, that like that. So, I think it's important that we teach everybody around us, especially the younger generations, high school and below. It's, we got to catch them there.
And I guess my next question, like the other video, say this is not financial advice, but
we didn't give any.
No. As far as, like I said before, the next question, what would be your must-have tokens, in a wallet?
I don't really see must-have tokens because I think that's just get into it at the end of the day. Get into it. What I tell people, this is what I do tell people. Make sure that when you get into a cryptocurrency, you understand what it's about. You understand the community. Like when you got into Helium, when you spent $1,000 or however much you guys spent on a Helium miner, you didn't just do it because FOMO one day you woke up and you saw charts popping off and you were like, oh my God, I got to buy a miner and go with it. Right. You did research, you figured it out, you bought a machine, you brought it home, and now you're, working with it. So same concept. Don't FOMO, don't fear into, don't, get scared and think you're going to miss out on this wave that's coming. Don't do that. So don't buy any coins like that. Make sure that there are people involved, real people that you can see and say, oh, that's a real person. It just limits there's so many scams and rug pulls, they call them, that are happening out there. Make sure you're dealing with real people. And then, make sure you understand the ecosystem to a degree to where if you had to explain it to somebody else, you could explain it to somebody else. Because I think that the new economy is going to require you being passionate. Like you went and bought that Helium miner, you put it in, you guys were obviously passionate about being part of this decentralized community. You're in the Discord, you're on the Twitter, you're passionate about it. If you're not passionate about something, the new economy, certainly, I'm not here to predict the next 1000x. I can't do that. I don't want to do that. I'm here for the long haul, the longer haul. Yeah. So how do we set ourselves up for the best position going forward? It's understanding that the new economy is a social capitalistic economy. We're going to benefit from the ecosystems we believe in, that we understand, and that we want to participate in and stake our value in and gain value from. So that's what I always tell people when they ask me which coins. It's like, that's really more in this world, that's more of a personal question. It's not just a make money question to me anymore, because I think that if you've got 10 grand, so that's my official answer.
Thank you.
Okay. I'll give you my non-official, non-financial advice answer. If you're looking to just find, 10,000x gems, and you're wanting to go drop, $100 and try to turn it into 10,000, and you want to spread that out over, maybe you've got 2,000-3,000 extra to just play with, and you want to put that into 20, 30, 40, whatever, you can go watch decentralized exchanges. So there's like a tool called moontools.io. Okay. And you can go watch moontools.io, and you can see tokens that have just launched. So the best opportunity to do 1,000x is not to buy after everybody's bought. It's to be one of the early ones into, staking into that system. So, if you watch Moon Tools, you can see early launches of cryptocurrencies and tokens, and then go look at their marketing, go look at their, what they're doing, what their website looks like, what they're, who's kind of involved with it. And if it all looks good, you can get in pretty early. I don't think I think, you can also get into the main guys. I don't think it'll hurt to have some Ethereum, to gypC's point. I don't think it'll hurt to have some little bit of Bitcoin. I also have some Binance token. It's more worldwide type of token. I think it has a lot of, it's got a lot of risk. It's got a lot of potential too. But I think that the top 3 to 5, I wouldn't put any of my funds into something like US Tether or USDC. I wouldn't do anything like that. I think those are just for people with hundreds of thousands that are moving to, dilute their risk. So I wouldn't play around in any of those. And I would stick to the, top 3 to 5 tokens if you're just talking about longer term. And then again, any of those ecosystems that you research, love, find out about. So yeah, that's really my.
I feel like research is a big part, because if you don't end up researching it and really getting into it because you're passionate about the project, then you get all these paper handers every time there's fake news. People are selling their positions, and then they're left with, and then it goes back up again, and they're like, oh shit, I missed out. And so you definitely have to do your own research in order not to, get swayed by fake news or pump and dump.
Here's another thing I'll tell you that I just kind of realized myself too, and it's been working out very true. When you hear everybody saying we're at the top, we're probably not. We're probably, sorry. When you hear everybody saying we're going to bust through to the moon, and this is going to be, it's 10xing from here, it's 100xing from here, it's probably not.
Yeah.
That's not going to happen. You're probably at the top, and you need to understand that. And I'm not telling you need to sell, but you need to understand that. Don't go dropping in everything you have because some guy's saying, oh, it's, oh my God, everybody starts saying it and everybody gets scared. The opposite is true on the bottom. So when you start hearing everybody say, oh, it's going to drop another, we're not at the bottom yet. So look at exactly what happened, and just take Bitcoin as the prime example. Okay. End of December, mid-December, everybody was like, oh my God, it's going to 100 grand. Everybody, when I say everybody, go on Twitter, everybody. Okay. Everybody who's an influencer, whatever you want to call them, was saying, oh, it's going to 100K. What happened? Boom. Bottom dropped out of it. Okay. Then they're silent. It's dropping. It's kind of hovering, got down towards the bottom. And then they were like, shit, we didn't get it to go as low as we wanted to. So what do we need to do? We need to tell everybody, fuck, it's about to drop another 50%, 75%. And they all start saying it. All of them, JP Morgan and everybody, all these Twitter influencers, everybody, that's all they start saying is, oh my God, we haven't hit the bottom. It's going down, blah, 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 more. And then what happens? We were at the bottom and it starts to climb again. And they were like, fuck, we didn't get it to, So it's this game. It's this, and it's kind of unregulated and it's kind of, dirty and disgusting, but you need to understand it and you need to know what part of the market that you're in. So when you hear everybody screaming, and this goes for almost every single token that's out there, when you hear everybody screaming, oh, that's it, we're about to moonshot, this thing just 10x, it's about to 50x. Yeah, whatever. Same thing for that bottom. When you hear everybody saying, oh man, this thing's about to fucking, when everybody's scared and everybody's pushing that maximum fear to try to get the bottom to drop out of that thing, that's when you need to reconsider, like, should I be coming in small amounts into this market and, starting to bolster my position. And if you follow those two ideologies, you'll probably find that more times than not, your sentiment predicts the sentiment of the market predicts based on those values right there. It's pretty crazy.
When there's a huge jump and, of course, you've gained a lot of money and you're ready to cash out, what are some of the complications that people will have in those moments?
It's not very complex. And that's what a lot of people, I was talking to a friend of mine who's big in the stock market, and he's a technology guy. And when I told him, I asked him, like, oh, you're not in Bitcoin, you never talk about it, or crypto, you never talk about it. Why? He's like, well, it's just, how do I get my money? Where's my cash? Where's my this? Where's my, it's like, you get it in 2 seconds. What do you mean? You sell your Bitcoin, you get your cash. What do you mean? It's done. It's easy. It's already out there. And I think just people don't understand how simple the whole equation is getting, and really how, I'm not one of those ones that's like looking for a cash out point where I say, okay, that's it. I'm done. I've made my money. I'm getting out of all these cryptos and going, back into fiat or into the yuan or whatever. No, I see crypto as a long-term play. And so for me, it's more about, do I go into another ecosystem where I think, there might be, I believe more in the value being created over there, or do I stay in this one? I think the biggest thing to understand is it is easy, but that's also goes back to the point of, you need to research these coins and tokens you're getting into, because you could get into one of these ones that has been coded to not be easy and to be a scam and to hold your money. So, you don't want to get into one of those for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I guess before we wrap it up, is there any information that you'd like to share about projects that you have coming up? Whether it's did you say the book?
So, I would like to, we've talked about Bank Social a little bit and Financial. We've also got Block Advocates. I would love for you guys to take a look at that, blockadvocates.org. That's our 501c3 that's focused on, just educating the world. Focus mostly on the United States, but educating the world. Love to have you guys be a part of that and be one of our members. It's got a very special role in our ecosystem that we really can't talk about just yet. But and then of course we have our CryptoConquest podcast, and hope to have you guys on there soon.
Sure.
If you'll,
yeah. And we always invite everyone back, and if you're ever in LA, we would like to invite you for in studio recording as well.
Oh, I love LA. It's one of my favorite places.
Yeah, so definitely feel free to hit us up if you're out here and want to come in and do another recording.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, thank you so much. I really enjoyed it. You guys are great.
Yeah.
And for the podcast, you can find us at AmericanGypC.com. And we also have merch, consistent self-improvement merch at luamlee.com. And you'll have all of these links in the description. Thank you for listening. John, thank you for being here.
John, I appreciate all of the information that you've shared with us. You dropped a lot of gems. And even just the encouraging of my wife and my in-laws to get together and do something in the programming. I appreciate that. We appreciate that as well. And we know it'll be motivating for them as well.
My pleasure. Well, it was fantastic. I really enjoyed talking with you guys. We talked for a long time, actually. I didn't think we were going to talk this. It was a great conversation. It went very well. Thank you so much.
And we like to
thank all the love and power, guys.
Yeah, we like to thank everybody that's been listening or that will be listening, and all our listeners and all our supporters. And also for music, you can find some melodies at under Classic Carpenter, KLACCIK. CARPENTA on Spotify, iTunes, Tidal, and YouTube, all other platforms as well. Links will be below, like she said.
You can find all of this at AmericanGypC.com as well.
Yeah. So thank you to everyone again. Consistent self-improvement, everyone. And we'll see you tomorrow.
Peace.
Peace.